Okay, got it.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Bazooka Goal Friday Tactics Board. I've got with me today, I'll call him a friend actually. You know, I've known him for a couple of years now. I'll let him introduce himself. But welcome everyone to this edition. Over to you, Ian. Do you want to tell us then who you are, where you're from?
Yeah, certainly. So Ian Morrion. Who am I? That's a good question. One I find myself asking quite often. But so failed football player. Let's get that out of the way. And when I say failed, I mean I've dabbled with playing football over the years, but to no great level. But a huge football fan, and I found much more success as a coach and a football parent than I have as a player. I think is probably a polite way of describing my footballing ability. But yeah, so massive football fan, coach. Coach success at adult and junior level. Where am I from? Well, I'm as you might guess, I'm not a native to Manchester, but I now find myself. I don't even live in Manchester. I need to get this right for the Salford-onians out there. But yeah, I live in Salford these days. But I am originally from Runcorn, for those that know it. But I find myself living in Salford after 20 odd years of being in the army. And somehow ended up, even though I'm a massive Liverpool fan, I've ended up living in Salford. But there you go, inside the enemy territory.
I'll just end this interview now. Then, so once you say that, then no, it has loads of banter over the years with your support, and obviously you had a successful podcast series then that you did a couple of years back, was it?
Yeah, so I used to run a podcast series, kind of getting inside the lesser known stories of grassroots football. I think is how you could describe it. So. It's called The Football Dad. So that was me kind of, I was on the kind of the grassroots journey with my son at the time. As I kind of started that journey, what became apparent was there's so many people in grassroots football that are doing absolutely amazing things. And I wanted a way of catching their stories. So just, sitting down, having a conversation and getting the stories out there. Unfortunately, the podcast market became quite diluted at the start of the lockdown last year. So I retired it for a bit. But like everything that's successful that goes into retirement, it'll be back one day with a bang. So keep an eye out. We'll get back on that bandwagon over the next couple of months.
Cool. So I've actually one obviously regarding this from a parent's point of view. And obviously we've been talking 3v3 for the past few weeks, and we've had lots of Pete Sturgis on, looking at it from the FA's point of view, Peter Prickett, who wrote a couple of books on it, other coaches, people involved in academies, people involved with leagues. So now I say just a different view from a parent. So if you want to tell, when did you come across 3v3 and how did you start it? Obviously a bit then about your son, if you want to share with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I will say though is we're on a bit of a decline, aren't we, from Pete Sturgis to me?
Upwards trend.
Yeah. We'll pretend it's an upwards trend, but having listened to and seen Pete's work, we know it's not. But so I guess for me, I first came across 3v3 as it was like an additional activity that we started sending the boys down to of a weekend after they do a bit of grassroots, and I remember the first time we came down. I think you were set up at Ambrose Barlow for a little bit, and we played indoors there. And I remember obviously it is what it says on the tin. It's 3v3, but other than that, I didn't really know too much about it. I remember seeing the first session and just thinking, I mean, wow, this is fast and furious. This is development kind of on speed almost. It's what a great format. We'll get into the details of it, but I just remember sitting there thinking like, this is excellent. This is, and if I think about my own son, we'll get to him in a little bit. It's a format that really suits him down to the ground as well, because he's a summer-born kid. He's a little bit smaller than the rest of his own year group, and I think, because the way that 3v3 plays, it takes a lot of the physicality out of it. Yes, you've got, it's quick. You've got to be quick on the ball and make quick decisions. But it's not necessarily, the kids that are a foot taller than everyone that will dominate the game, because that, you know, you don't have the space and you don't have the style of play to be able to dominate the games like you would do physically. So I think it's a much fairer format, regardless of where you are, you know, in terms of your kind of development throughout the year. So yeah, so he had a couple of sessions in that, and then you know, it was one of the kind of the indoor 3v3 Christmas Cups came up, and we went into that, and then from there I've been such a fan of the format. And then, you know, as the air pitches have come into the format as well, you know, I was keen to get them involved in that, because I think that then brings a completely different dimension into it. And, you know, it's well known, but, you know, and I know, you know, having known you for a while, I know how much you love stats, and I'm sure you can tell me the stats, but it's that ball and play time. Like, you know, you're not waiting for the ball to go out. And the other thing as well is, what I really like about it is it gives you that kind of, you know, if you look at, you know, let's kind of strip football back to the basics and look at, you know, some of the most successful footballers going, you know, if you look at your likes of your Sterlings and your Sanchos, and there's a great clip of Sancho actually from the Ukraine game in the Euros, you know, one of the few times he got on, but the way they play, it's that cage football style. You can see they play with a confidence. You can see they play with a freedom, you know, of being able to express themselves and confidence, knowing that they can beat a player. And I think one of the things I love about the 3v3 air pitch format is you get some of that cage football style play going on, because, you know, you find yourself in a tight situation where, you know, you're up against the air bumper and you've got somebody behind you, and you've got to figure out a way of you know, either getting past a player or retaining possession, but you haven't got like the kind of, you know, the physical nature of the cage to, like, you know, to get thrown into. So yeah, I mean, it's a really, really good format. And I just think that there's so much development and so much positivity that the kids can take from it, that it's, yeah, I see it as, you know, obviously it doesn't replace the main format of the game for me, but as an additional supplement to a child's development, it's a great format.
Well, no, just back to like that. Yeah, I'm a bit of a stat owner. I do love them. So just for people watching, so we've done all the analysis on air pitch games, on normal matches, and we had help off a pro club with their analysis who did it. And, you know, like the ball in play was 95% plus, you know, compared to a normal game. And I've watched and sat there with a stopwatch, and typical games, you know, the 60%, and there's a lot of like I say, whether it's just, and it's not, you know, for breaks in play, it's just corners and free kicks and throw-ins, and there's a lot of time, and then it's just wasted that you don't realise in the game until you just sit back and just watch that amount of time that is actually wasted. The pros do it, and, you know, I think City were like 67 minutes out of 90, and Burnley were 58 minutes out of 90. It's like, yeah, ridiculous. So just by having more ball playing time, they're naturally getting more touches, and then you add into it, like say the tight space, the format, the environment, it just all adds to it then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, kind of going back even further, and I know don't look it, but showing my age, you know, when David Beckham was at his peak, I remember reading something in the, you know, in terms of a stat, and I think, you know, David Beckham averaged something like 2 minutes, you know, in a game with the ball at his feet. You know, so in a 90-minute adult game of football, and I appreciate, you know, the adults game and the kids game are two separate things, but in a 90-minute game of adults football, you know, your star player touches the ball for less than 2 minutes. So, you know, so there's not, you know, there's not much time on the ball. So if you kind of roll that back to kids and you're playing in a, you know, in a 5v5 7v7 format, it's going to be an equivalent kind of scenario where the kids aren't getting, you know, very many minutes of time on the ball in an hour, you know, in an hour's game. You probably in a 15-minute 3v3 air pitch match, you probably get 2 minutes on the ball, you know, just in one 15-minute section, you know, if not more. Do you know what I mean? So it's, yeah, in terms of the touches, you know, and if you know, again, if you work to the 10,000 hour rule of mastery, you know, it's all time adding up, isn't it?
That's, yeah, no, it does everything. It just intensified and accelerated, and we've seen it from the stats point of view, which I always use to back up what I preach, because that's what sometimes I sound like I'm preaching all the time. But for me, the most important thing is the improvement you see in the players, and like Finn, and I remember a couple of years ago with him and his little team, he said, "You're my like poster boys now," because they played 3v3 at how it should be, and it wasn't about how quick can we score, because that's especially with some of the rules, they could just run and shoot, and they didn't do that. And the way they played and moved it around and rotated playing, made decisions when to beat a player, when to pass, how to then cover back and defend, everything that you would do in the big match. I say they did it in 3v3, and it wasn't just about let me show me skills, which some people think and like we used to have it with futsal as well, as like futsal just makes them greedy. It's like, well, no, we give them those basics, but then obviously it's about making the right decisions. And I remember it was after that Christmas Cup that they played, and I said, yeah, you're my new poster boys. You took over the Escola team that we had a few years back, and because just the way they played it, was just everything how it should be. And they're not just being great little players, but great. I've always said just the great little kids, and that's why I loved them. They were just always playing with a smile on the face, always enjoyed it, always dead, polite. If a kid did get injured, they would stop and make sure that they were okay, and just everything that I wanted to create in that environment, they captured that, and that was. And I think I'm going to ask you the question, but from a parent's point of view, I think that's what you love most about sitting there watching your kid just going, playing with a smile on his face.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I think, kind of rolling back to the team you talk about there that he was in. I mean, so technical ability wise, we had some really good kids in that team. So we could have taken him to football matches in their own age group and just said to him, right, you can dribble past all 5 players on the pitch, so just go and score as many goals as you can, but that wasn't what we were trying to achieve from. What we were trying to do was everything that you just said there, was to get them to enjoy the game, and part of enjoying the game is how can you express yourself, how can you make good decisions, and if you kind of, and I think with this as well, so I mean, one of the things with 3v3 say is it's although the pitch is smaller and you're kind of encaged or enclosed, for me it's harder to score because I mean the age of football that that I've been involved with, yourself, we could probably name 10 players who every time they get the ball can smash the ball into the top corner and the keeper can't save it. 3v3 presents you with a different challenge. So when you're saying to the boys, go out and I want you to challenge yourself now, I don't want you to kind of dribble past everyone. Can you beat a player in a 1v1, and then can you find a clever pass? Or even better, if your teammate beats a player, can you then move to receive and be in a position where you can then receive the pass? Or can you make a decoy run? And I think for me, obviously there's enjoyment for kids when they score, and you would never want to take that away from them. But the enjoyment that I've seen on their faces when you've asked them to maybe look at, can you, in this game, can you find an overlap? Or if your teammate, makes an overlap, can you find your teammate? And then seeing the little faces when they look over because they know they've done that, and you kind of give them a thumbs up. That for me is success. In terms of, you can score and you can win tournaments and you can, you can go in, and put a medal around your neck and say, well, that's success. But for me, it's some of the fundamental principles, like you say, that we've maybe worked on in the 5v5 game, honed in the 3v3 format, and then gone and implemented back into the 5v5 game again. It's the crossover is brilliant, and like you said, the development, being able to kind of take it from from the kind of the main format of whether it be 5v5, 7v7, whatever, work on it in a different setting inside the air pitch where things are a bit tighter. You've got to do things at a bit more pace, and then go and implement it again in the bigger formats. Absolutely great development.
That's and back to one of the stats there is the number of repetitions, the times they'll get to practice that one particular move. Let's say whether it was an overlap, and they'll get it and they'll make mistakes. And then it was a coach who said it. He said, you make a mistake here, but you get to repeat it 10 seconds later, because you're not then stood around waiting, for a turn. We just a story then. We had a women's game the other night. Obviously, we've got a women's 3v3 league, and we have a women's 7v7 league. And the coach who does it with me, he said, I've got a great corner routine tonight. Spent 5 minutes explaining it to the women. Did 2 corners all game. I'm like, you've not had a chance really to practice that. I said, whereas if you did it, in the smaller setting, you would have done it 20 times. And that's, I say, another, another benefit of what you can do then in the 3v3. I'm going to introduce like different challenge cards to the season we've got, and I've got some basic idea ones I'm going to do, and then some more advanced ones. And it's like, well, a bit like how you would set up a coaching session. And that's what I, say to a lot of people is see this, okay, it's not your big match, all right? It's the in between what you can do in your training session and what you do in your game. And this is like the midpoint of it then. And you can do so much with it then. And like I say, the little, I think Peter Prickett, and they asked him why 3v3 as his book and not 2v2 or 1v1. And it was, the principles of play. You can almost do everything in a 3v3 format. 2v2 is a bit one-dimensional, like 1-2s, whereas 3 you've got more of what you can do in a big game. And you see them all over the pitch now, the little triangles and that are set up. So it just gives them that time. I did it with my lad, and he's 2, so he's the centre mid, and he's left and right mid. They were the ones who become a 3, and just how they played, just exactly how they're playing in a big match then.
Yeah. And it was the same for us, so we'd been trying to get the kids to play out from the back all season, playing up at under 9, so 7v7, trying to get them to play out, working them little triangles. And like you say, 2v2, you wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, you'd be able to work on certain passes. But then when you bring it into that kind of, it's like putting a magnifying glass over the pitch, isn't it? When you bring them into 3v3, so I still want you to play in your triangles, but, instead of having the whole pitch, you've got to be sharp now. You've got to work on it in this area. And like you say, it doesn't matter if you get it wrong, because you're going to get another go in 15 seconds time to try again. So yeah.
No, it is. Yeah. And you see, so really, and that's when I've seen the kids who've done it week after week after week, and that improvement back to saying before, that's what I love most about doing it, and why I keep going all the time, even though we've got staff now who do it for me. It's like the wife says, why are you going again? It's like, because I've got to know these kids, and I love seeing what they've done week on week and how they've improved. And you see some, and then like of Finn and of his teammates, it wasn't just 3v3 only of what got him into the academy system. And I'm going to take credit for that. Enough coaches do that, but I've seen, I've never counted, but I must have 100 kids over the last 4 or 5 years we've been doing it that have now ended up into the academy system. It's like
and I think you're right there, because there's obviously there's a lot to what goes into kind of getting into the academy system, but I think one of the other things that it teaches you as well, that which really helps when you want your kids to either develop immensely or you want them to perform at a level, it's the mental sharpness that 3v3 brings as well. Because if you score a goal, you can't just switch off and think to yourself, oh brilliant, I've scored a goal, I'm going to celebrate, we'll go back to the middle, we'll have a kickoff. Because if you have that train of thought, the other team are attacking, they've got the ball out the net and they're down the other end, so you've got to mentally be switched on as well, which then increases your awareness and your reading and your understanding of the game. And like you said, we the Finn's team, we had quite a lot of success this year in terms of getting boys in, and certainly the boys that have played within the 3v3 system with them, you can see that sharpness in them, both physically, in terms of what they're doing with the football, but then when they lose possession, can I get it back? And that comes from 3v3 of, we scored a goal, we need to get the ball back, or we've lost possession, we need to get the ball back, because it's being played at this pace. So it is. And I can fully understand how so many boys have made it into that academy system off the back of the the development of 3v3.
Yeah, no, I say we've had loads over the years, and just seeing them improve, as I say, has always been the thing that I've loved, and so many of them come back now. So obviously I know Finn coming over the summer, his grassroots game stopped and his academy wasn't ready to start, and he's like, oh, what do we do? And it's like, right, I'm going 3v3, because that was where he could come and have fun, and just enjoy that time with the ball and playing in a competitive game.
For me, that was the most natural thing for him to do, to come in, because like I say, when and I'm not suggesting 3v3 is only for academy kids. I'm not saying that because it's absolutely not. But you know, when that kind of that funny time of year, like you say, between grassroots finishing and there being nothing else, just to keep them ticking over, because you know, physically it's hard. You know, you're doing shuttle runs for however many minutes long the games are. Mentally, it's I want to say hard. I mean hard in context. But mentally it's challenging. It keeps your touches on the ball going, and then there's. But above all else, it's fun, and he comes down and he enjoys it. And for me, it was just the most natural thing to do. It was like, well, Saturday afternoon, Saturday lunchtime, let's go and do an hour 3v3. You can get it out of your system. You can keep your touch. You can keep in form a bit, and actually you can go and enjoy yourself and be a bit more expressive because of the pace and the way the game's played. I think it does encourage kids to be a bit more expressive. And I see Finn, attempting more skills and failing more skills in 3v3 than I do anywhere else. And I think it's because he knows that he can just come and express himself, and because if you lose the ball, you've got the chance to win it back quite quickly, because it's chances are people haven't got away from you. So
no, and that's to say when we start, like we're starting some new program now as the season's gone in, and it's the new kids. It'll take them a couple of weeks to get used to the pace of the game. And I'll always say, well, listen, you'll be tired after this. Yeah, you'll be sleeping tonight. And the amount of pictures that parents send me after having me asleep in the car on the way home, they're absolutely done in, because it's so fast and furious, like you said. But then they come back and they get used to it, and then I always say you'll see it transfer into your normal matches. It just becomes part of your game then, and it's that. What you can do at training and what you do in your matches, it really just fits that little gap that allows you then to, go and practice. Or I have it. Well, it was a kid the other day, and I always say to them, I want you to think of something you've watched, or you've been practicing. Or they all watch these YouTubers now. They all watch the little 10-second video clips and of new skills, and they want to try them, and they're practicing themselves in the garden, but not really in a match day, because it's like, especially with some managers, he's not letting me do that when I'm the last man, right? But then on a 3v3, they just get to go and try it then, and they'll mess up loads of times. But it's that learning zone. Pete Sturgis called it. It's the fun learning zone. That's what a pitch should be, and I think that's what we try and put then in our 3v3 games then.
And this probably sounds a little bit mad, but I think having the air pitch as well, because I see it in Finn's face. One of the things that he really loves about 3v3 is just jumping over the air pitch to get onto the pitch, which sounds a bit daft, but it just signifies that it's something different. Because normally, you walk onto a football pitch, don't you? But because you've got to jump over the inflatable, it's kind of like it's just something a bit different. And and I think for me that's the kind of like. It's only a small little signal, but it does signify that it is different, that that it's not a normal football match, and that it is it is an opportunity to have fun and to play and to enjoy yourself.
No, he has, and I've loved watching his personal journey over the last couple of years, and good luck to him then. Now he's in the academy system, and hopefully I'll see him next summer when they stop and he wants to come back. But even as just again over the last few years, the players that have gone into the academy, when they come back, they love it, because even during the season, there come some of them, is because that's the time you get to have fun. It's a bit serious and a bit structured. Once they go into the pro system, like the academy system, whereas then they come back before us, and it's like we had players from Leeds and Stoke coming up to play, and that's the parents like, well, this is the only time he gets to really have fun. So all right, it must be quite serious then once they're in there, and this gives them that bit extra then that still want to have then.
It's just like, it's like a no strings attached. It's just you can come in. It's and I think so. From what I've seen of the academy system so far, it is fun, but deep down inside, everybody knows that it's a pressurized system, where you've got to perform at a certain level over a sustained number of years to really, to have any impact on that journey. But yeah, with the 3v3 stuff, it's just, you can come in, you can leave all that, at the door. You can just come and play for an hour and then walk away at the end of it, and, go home and, just kind of, just well, probably fall asleep, but yeah.
No, it is. And that's, I've always said, I'll always allow academy players to come and play. You've got to play up a year, because we just try and keep the levels right. But it's I just know, I've had so many, and I want to see them as well. I want to see, the league grassroots, and sometimes you don't see them then, but this is a chance, and I get to see them come back. I get to see how they've grown as a player, as a little person. No, I do. So I do enjoy seeing them all come back, and we do a separate summer academy program, which we'll do again next year. Moving on then to your next son. Yeah. Now you've learned, what all the right and wrong things to do. I'm put pressure on you here now. Does 3v3 sit in then with what he's going to start playing then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think 3v3 is just
How old's your youngest then?
Yeah, so Rafe's 4, so he's just starting now at soccer school, and again, he's starting to learn to love the game, and being honest, he's into superheroes more than he's into football, which is cool, because the world needs as many superheroes as it does footballers. But I think so, for example, there was the 3v3 festival the other week for the under 5s, and one of the teams he's kind of training with, I think the parents are desperate for the kids to play a match, which I understand the desperation. Maybe desperation is not the right word, but I understand the desire to want them to play football and not just train, because that's what the game of football is. But I think you've got to be careful, especially at that real young age, because and if I reflect back to to Finn's journey, you've got, even at 4, and this is one of the things that kind of I don't think people appreciate, that there are talented kids at 4 years old. Nobody's saying that they're still going to be talented at 20, but even from that age, you run the danger of playing a game of football for the sake of playing a game of football, and kids kind of being steamrolled because they play a team where they've got 3 or 4 kids that are that are maybe more developed or talented at that age. Whereas, so I kind of, and I don't think they managed to make it in the end, but I suggested to the parents that they go and play 3v3, and the reason, that all the reasons we spoke about were the reasons why, what I suggested to them, that, especially with the under 5s festival, the focus isn't on winning. The focus is on, who can show me something, incredible, who can, all them little turns that we've been working on and training, who can take one of them turns and implement it in a match, and you take away that sentiment of, you've got to win this football match, and you can turn it into right, who can do something, who can win the ball back in before I count to 10, and because it's a different format of the game, and of course, goals will go in and people will record scores, whether you record them formally or whether it's just parents keeping a tally in their head. That will always be the case. But I just think that with the format it is, and like we said, with the time on the ball and the amount of touches, there's more chance of success if you go to 3v3 and say, right, remember, we've been working on doing a drag back in training. Who can do 5 drag backs in this game? And they're going to get more opportunities to do it in a 10-minute 3v3 game than they would in an hour-long 5v5 match. So in terms of his own journey, absolutely, 3v3 for me is one of the things that we'll be looking at getting him into and bringing him down, and
so we have other sister companies then in Europe, part of the 3v3 Europe franchise, and they do also in Germany and in Norway. Belgium do it, but not from a lot of influence from us, but in some countries we've had some big influence on how that young game has been shaped. But you watch them, and that's Pete Sturgis is a fan, but it's not his decision. But getting them younger ones to only play, like say 3v3 at that under 5s, under 6, under 7s, either it's okay. We try to develop individual players. You see all the the great teams, and we've seen enough of them at under sevens who, you know, have a little diamond and they have the shape and they just pass and stay in shape and they score because most of the kids just chase the ball and they look like they've done really well. I was like, well, they're not individually developing there, they're developing as a team. But can them kids, you know, do it on their own? Some can, not saying it's exclusive for them, but I say by focusing on that individual player and giving them that time and all the other things, like it's building blocks, and it comes. My nursery group, we had a game the other night at Man City, 5v5 on the biggest 5v5 pitch I've ever seen in my life. Okay, they couldn't even see the other net, right? And they were absolutely lost, right? Partly because of the size of the pitch, but also then just the chances that they had on the ball. They were distracted by the blue pitch, by the big floodlights, by the stadium in the background. You know, everything else took their attention. And I'm like, what's going on? We don't, you know, we only play 3v3. What, you never like this? And it was that there was just too many distractions, too many opportunities not to concentrate on the ball. That then, the 5 years old, of course, they're going to be thinking what they're having for tea and everything else. So, no, it is to say that young age, I think it is the best game for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess it's even like, you know, so we had a really talented bunch with Finn's grassroots team, and it took us 18 months maybe to try and get them playing in triangles. And when you look back now, you're like, well, if we just took them to 3v3 a few times and stuck them on the pitch and said, right, when you play out, you know, you've got to play to him, you play to him, you move, you receive. We'd have taught them it in, you know, in about 18 minutes, never mind 18 months. And, you know, so yeah, like I say, I'm sold. I'm a fan, and you know, for me, it's you know, from a personal perspective, you know, and if we leave kind of, you know, coaching to one side, but as a parent, you know, it's high on the agenda, like you said there, for, you know, for Finn, for that, you know, certainly for them periods where, you know, he's maybe doesn't have any organized football, because I just think like I say, it's a great format just to kind of just to keep yourself, you know, in his case, you know, for him, great format to keep him ticking over, and to do something different that he enjoys, and then for his little brother to grow.
Fingers crossed. Well, hopefully we're working with some of the Premier League academies. Then we'll have a Premier League 3v3 program hopefully coming soon. So he'll be involved in that, and he'll be able to show everyone else how it's done. He'll have that advantage then. So no, and it is that. I say thanks for your time, Ian. Just a couple of last little points for you. I throw my trick question in at the end. So as a parent then, so you come and obviously you got to watch your being selfish, not looking at the team. Okay, when you got to watch your son or daughter, you know, go and play, and what you want to see. So when you come to a 3v3 game, and I know I say it's answered itself really, but the amount of times that you see him trying new skills, scoring goals, working hard, having for all the things that, you know, you want him to go and do, he gets that chance then at 3v3. So as a parent watching it, do you come to him about, you know, it's not, Finn loves 3v3, so I'm taking him. Do you go, he's playing 3v3 today, I'm going to enjoy watching what he does?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I really enjoy watching him play with that freedom that it gives you. And that might sound, you know, to some people might sound odd, because you're in, you know, you're more engaged, or you're more enclosed than you are than on a big pitch. But for me, I see him playing with a freedom there that he doesn't play with elsewhere, because he's busy. He's trying to play football on the big pitch, whereas on the little pitch, you know, he's trying to play 3v3, and it's, you know, it's a different format, isn't it? So yeah. So
do you think, obviously, because there's no real positions then in 3v3, whereas in football is the defender, he can't go that forward. Is the attacker, he can't come that far back. He's on the left, he can't go that far to the right. Whereas in free, there's no restriction, is there, then on really where you go, you're everything all the time.
Yeah, you're a defender 1 second, and you're a right winger the next second, and then, you know, you're making that lung busting box to box Kante type recovery run, you know, the minute after. So yeah.
Right, we'll have to get you down to the men's Monday night one soon as well.
You're all too injured.
Cool. I say thanks for your time, Ian. Say listening to like a parent's point of view is then important because we want to make sure everybody comes, and especially that whether it's a weekly league or the events, when you just come and you sit and you watch it and you enjoy being part of that environment, and that's important to us as well as what we see with all the kids. So final question.
Yeah.
I've not lined this up for you, so I hope you'll be all right. Your all-time 3v3 team.
So there's an easy one. There's an easy one that goes in here. So obviously Liverpool fan, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't include Steven Gerrard, which is probably quite obvious, but I just think that when you look at the desire that he played with for Liverpool, that's what you'd need. You need that person that kind of like, is everywhere, doing everything. That's got that little bit of magic, not a dribbler, but just got that little bit of magic. Alongside him, I'd go for, and I was lucky enough to see him in the flesh once, Zidane. He'd be magic on a 3v3 pitch. Like, you wouldn't, to be honest, you could probably just play Zidane on his own. You wouldn't need anyone else around him. And then the last one that I'm going to chuck in there is Ronaldinho, because he would give you that, that kind of that Brazilian flair and that magic. Not the best Brazilian player, I don't think, that I've seen in my lifetime. But I think for 3v3, with them two alongside him, he'd give you that kind of that freedom of expression, and I think he'd be a joy to watch. Decent
team. I'll have to pick up the phone and make a few calls to even get that team down. We had some good ones up to now. So that was a different one. Some new players in there. So thanks for your time. I appreciate this. I could say pretend it's Friday because it's going out on Friday. This, but on a Wednesday afternoon. Good luck to Finn in his journey. Good luck to Rafe. Starting his. Good luck to you following him. Yeah. I say, and from a coach to a parent, your attitude watching the kids play is, we used one of your videos as part of a respect campaign. I say a lot of parents should look and watch that, because that's how our parents should behave. So, honestly, well done to everything you've helped, your kids on that journey, not just being great little footballers, but I said it before, just a great kid. So he'll always have a place in my heart. So thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you soon, Ian.
Yeah, no doubt, and good luck with 3v3, and we'll see you on the side of the pitch soon, hopefully.
Defo. Cheers, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
See you now.
Thanks.